when the AWS CEO gets up and brags last week, hey, 70% of AWS code is generated by AI. And drum roll.
And then you see AWS completely crash. Let me go ahead and share I think it's a funny tweet. Let me go ahead and pull that up really quick, see if you can see that. But yeah. Oh, wait, there's that one. There's a handful. Let me go ahead and pop them up really quick.
Yeah, and so it turns out that it was something to do with their DNS, and it stuck it into a loop, and none of their websites could resolve. Yeah, so AWS CEO brags that 70% of their code is generated by AI, and within 7 days, half the internet's down, right? And so, like, this just kind of goes to show is like, one, the metric of 70% of their code being generated by AI is total BS. Like, and the thing about it is every time these executives say it, they're like, well, about 70. And as soon as you hear them say about, Google CEO got on, a podcast and said, hey, look, 10% of our code is generated by AI. And he knew the exact metric because Google prides themselves in KPIs. If you look at these kind of things, and you'll always see an about or around or some kind of things like that, it's just BS and they're pulling these numbers out of the air. But the pure irony to this is that within a week, then AWS melts and takes down half the internet.
Yeah, you see a couple other just kind of memes here that the AWS outage is more impactful than the federal government,
which is unfortunately kind of true too, actually.
And then you have AWS engineers. There was just a bunch of funny memes yesterday. Do you understand exactly what happened and what was going on?
What can happen is that when your DNS resolution starts to go down, remember that you're going to netflix.com and you were expecting Netflix to come up, and Netflix was impacted by this yesterday because they're a huge AWS customer. So you go to netflix.com, you expect it to do this. There's a whole bunch of DNS resolution of many different sites that it kind of glues things together, trying to simplify this. But when that DNS goes down, it literally breaks the connective tissue between all of the hosting. And so the DNS that was hosted in the US East failed yesterday, and most of their DNS went down, which caused just a ripple effect across the whole system.
And do you know why it went down?
No. And no one may never know. I don't know. They'll probably post some post-mortem on it at some point because these are interesting studies. It just does, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's, not to defend AWS, but to defend AWS, like, could happen to anybody. At the end of the day, the whole internet is still very reliant on DNS. When DNS stuff goes down, that can affect anybody.
Yeah.
Because if Cloudflare saw the similar problem, Cloudflare did see a little blip just a couple of weeks ago, and it was also DNS.
And so how do you
the Achilles heel? That? You don't. I mean, DNS is what the internet runs off of. Domain name resolution. So if you type in, startupack.com and you expect it to go to Startupack's website, and what it's doing is it's reaching out to the DNS provider, and then it gets a series of IPs. And in our case, like Cloudflare is a great example of this, and they have a lot of powerful systems. But if the DNS resolution fails, there's nothing you can do, because it's kind of like saying that the gas pedal in your car didn't work. Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do after that.
Got it. Interesting. So are they mostly operational again this morning, AWS?
I honestly haven't really looked a ton because I don't host on AWS. I can't stand their user controls, and I can't stand their permission systems, as we well know. And so it's like, I think AWS is a tangled mess that has tried to become everything to everybody. And I try to avoid them like the plague. But
it looks like you're seeing a big stabilization from where it was yesterday.
Yeah, I think there was mostly two blips that happened, one earlier in the day and one later in the day. And I think they got everything resolved mostly overnight.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, humans had to interact again for a day. It's okay.
Exactly.